Coming up, state tournament time is upon us. We'll break down the brackets and preview the upcoming march to the championships.
We'll also take a look at another Division I player who isn't used to losing. We go one-on-one with Dru Gyltin of St. Thomas More.
Varsity Sports starts right now. And hello and welcome to Varsity Sports alongside Jason Andera. I am Jay Elson. Well, things are about to get really fun here in the Dakotas. State tournaments will dominate the headlines for the next few weeks, which means, of course, every game a little bit more important.
A little bit more important. That's right, Jay. And as you know, we have 10 state tournaments that are coming up here between North and South Dakota, and they get underway starting this Thursday in Grand Forks. The girls B, and guess what? We've got our own Jody Norstedt who's going to help us break that down later in the show.
All right, we're going to get to that in a bit, but first, let's get you caught up on all the action from around the region, starting with South Dakota boys in Class AA. Jason, we're through round one of districts. What, if anything, is noteworthy thus far?
Well, I think you called it, Jay. I think you know what is going on in AA right now. That is Harrisburg. They are on a roll. They get a 53-48 win over top-seeded Brandon Valley in 2AA, and that means they face Lincoln, who also got a little bit of a road upset against Washington on Tuesday night. That means Brandon Valley now and Washington play in an elimination game on Friday. That's the top headliner right now out of AA.
Everybody had that penciled in, right? Harrisburg, Lincoln, district championship.
You know it, Jay. Anything can happen, and this just goes to show.
All right, Class A now. A lot of first-round region games played Tuesday. Any big upsets here?
Well, a few minor upsets, but nothing too major. The big game to look forward to is Del Rapids coming up against Sioux Falls Christian. This has kind of become an annual event right now. They're going to play for a berth in that big Sweet 16 that starts coming up next week on Tuesday, and Thursday night in the Elman Center is when it all goes down. So I think we're going to have a really fun game there as far as the top games coming up in Class A.
In Class B, a lot of the district tournaments tipped off on Tuesday. Still pretty early here, but what are you looking forward to most?
Well, I think you've got to look forward to a game like Langford and Warner. I mean, these two teams coming out of the same district, let alone the same region. They played earlier in the season to a last-second shot, and I don't think this time around in Aberdeen in the Civic Arena is going to be any different in District 2B. This is only the districts, guys, so wait till we get to those regions for some really good games. We also got a good one coming up between Chester and Coleman Egan in 7B. I think that's one to watch for in the districts, and as you know, March 7th will feature the regional finals when things get really interesting.
Oh, the madness is underway, right? Well, let's move to South Dakota girls now. No upsets in the first round of Class AA districts. That should give us some pretty good games on Thursday.
Yeah, it really does. We'll see the third matchup of the year in all the district finals, including Rapid City Central taking on Stevens, Pierre takes on Aberdeen, Harrisburg and Brandon Valley, who split earlier in the year, and then Roosevelt and O'Gorman. And of those rematches, it'll be Roosevelt and Aberdeen who will be shooting for those 3-0 sweeps, which is always so hard to do. So we'll see. And then, of course, the other two are rubber matches, and they've split the season series. However, the more important games are those elimination games from those first-round losers. We've got Washington taking on Lincoln. Only one of those teams are able to advance to the next step to qualify for the state tournament, and both those teams are above 500, so that's going to be tough luck for one of those teams.
Okay, in Class A, the first ever Sweet 16 field is set. Region qualifiers have been reseeded, and here's a look now at the bracket. Games are going to be played at 8 different locations, but all of them are going to be played on Friday. So, Jandy, who do you think should be on upset alert here?
Really, everybody's got to be on upset alert at this point in the season, but let's look at that 8-9 matchup. That one looks intriguing. We've got Dells going against Todd County, two teams that can really make some noise in this thing. They meet up in Chamberlain. I also think of the lower seeds, Madison, Millbank, West Central, all have that potential to pull off an upset to make that state tournament, that are really appreciating the Sweet 16 format at this point. It's going to be fun. All these games are taking place at about the same time, too, which makes things really interesting for Friday night.
I think a lot of people are excited to just see how this all plays out. There's been so much talk about it. Now we're finally here. We get to see how it all works. So, all right, that leaves us with Class B. where we also have just 16 teams left, although they're going to use, of course, a different format to fill out their 8-team field for the state tournament. Let's look at the region finals here.
Well, we've got a couple of really fun matchups. The favorites, obviously, Warner in Region 1, Sully Buttes in Region 2. Region 3, we've got a couple top 5 teams, but Sanborn Central the clear favorites there. Ethan in Region 4, I think pretty much everybody expects that one. Region 5 is really a toss-up. Parker and Irene Wakanda, 2 teams that could make a run. Avon probably the favorites in 6. In Region 7 on Tuesday night, New Underwood already won that, so they are the first team to qualify for the state tournament. Tigers only had 1 loss this year, and that was to Faith, who are the favorites in Region 8. So, we've got 1 out of the 8 tickets punched there, and the rest coming up in the next day.
7 more to go.
You got it.
Looking forward to it. All right, that's a wrap for our South Dakota preview. We're going to look closely at North Dakota's playoff picture later on. But when we come back, we're going to go one-on-one with this future Pac-12 player from St. Thomas More.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
Dru Gyltin transferred from Hill City to St. Thomas More in high school to challenge herself athletically, academically, and in her faith. Then she challenged herself by joining one of the most competitive AAU teams in the Midwest. So it shouldn't be a surprise that she wanted to challenge herself when searching for a place to play college basketball. Here's more about Dru Gyltin and how she chose to answer those challenges. From the time she could dribble a basketball, Dru knew that this was her sport.
I love the sport of basketball. I'm really blessed to have my parents, my grandparents put that on me. I'd say definitely at an early age I was introduced to the sport.
Both her parents and grandparents played basketball, and Dru was on board in that family business. Not only does she commit her winters to the sport, she's been playing year-round since middle school.
Played with the South Dakota Heat and the South Dakota Tech based out of here in Sioux Falls. And then finally, the past 3 years, I played with North Tartan, a Nike-based AAU team out of Minneapolis, and that definitely brought the colleges.
Her court savvy and basketball skills have gotten the attention of college coaches across the nation. This put Dru in an enviable, yet stressful situation.
The recruiting process, to me personally, really sucks. I think it's very stressful for especially girls of our age. But I mean, you get to go to college and you get to play, so I guess you have to go through the experience, and it's really you learn a lot of life lessons through it.
At the end of an arduous process, Dru fell in love with the University of Utah.
I could tell that I was at the top of their list, and when I went down there, right when I got off the plane, I just knew that it was the place for me. And when I toured and when I talked to the coaches, I just felt that family atmosphere. And coming from St. Thomas More, you're all a family and you're all connected, and I knew I wanted that going on through my life because I think that's a very important role.
But before packing her bags for the Pac-12, Dru will try to lead her team to a 4th consecutive state title. Her coach Brandon Candelin will rely on her leadership as the Cavaliers try to reach that goal.
When there comes a crunch time, or there comes a time that you need a basket or you need something done, even on the defensive end, but with Dru and the ball's in her hands, you know that she's going to be able to create something, whether it's for herself or for her teammates. And I think that's the special part of it too. It's not just about her.
St. Thomas More has survived a season-long test unscathed. But the games start gaining importance, and that X on their back grows even brighter.
Well, we definitely have a huge target on our backs. I think that's super hard. Because everyone brings their best game when you play St. Thomas More. You're not just gonna walk in and win, you have to earn it. So I think that's made us better as people and as basketball players to know that since you have that big target on your back, you need to come ready to play, you need to come ready to win, and hopefully just keep on winning.
Dru knows that the team has to take it one step at a time, but the idea of capping off her senior season and high school career with nothing but championships is exciting.
It would be the world. Going throughout high school, just winning every year a state championship, I don't even have words to explain how amazing it would be, but I know that we need to come every day prepared at practice and get better, and every game work on things for the future.
All right, Jason, as we look at Dru's numbers, not necessarily the eye-popping statistics that we've kind of been accustomed to in these one-on-one segments.
Yeah, she's not going to wow you in the box score. She will wow you on the court because she can do a little bit of everything, and she makes sure the rest of the team gets involved, and that has been a huge role for her this year. And it's, of course, been her role the last 3 years, too, playing with so much talent around her.
Talent, and that's the thing. D1 caliber talent. St. Thomas More's been become a bit of a factory in terms of producing Division I talent. You've got, of course, Alexis Swedlin already at Washington State, Kira Duffy and Caitlin Duffy both at South Dakota, and now Dru Gyltin headed to the Pac-12 as well.
You know what? What a program that Brandon Candlin has built at St. Thomas More, and they're so well coached on the defensive side of the ball. And I think, honestly, that is what gets them over the hump. That's what gets them their looks at the D1 level, is they can defend on the perimeter, they can defend in the post, and a player like Dru Gyltin, she's so versatile in what she can do on the court, all the way across from just basketball IQ to defending the perimeter to playing in the post if they need a mismatch in the post. So she does everything super well.
Well, here's what her future head coach at Utah, Lynn Roberts, had to say. Dru's one of the savviest basketball players I've recruited. She has a basketball IQ that is off the charts. She sees plays develop and is able to read, react, and make the right play. She's a tremendous passer, but Dru can also score and defend at an elite level. Dru can play the 1, 2, or the 3, and her versatility, as Jason just mentioned, will allow her to be a valuable contributor immediately. That, again, Utah coach Lynn Roberts. So that'll be pretty high praise.
That's saying something when you are going to say that she can immediately contribute to a Pac-12 team. And I think Alexis Swedlin has proven that you can come out of a program like St. Thomas More, and contribute right away. So good things ahead for Dru Gyltin.
All right, well, the region tournaments haven't even started yet, but we already know that at least one of North Dakota's top Class A girls teams going to be left out of the state tournament. We'll take a closer look at the log jam in the East after this. And welcome back to Varsity Sports. Well, we have surveyed the scene in South Dakota, so now time to do the same for North Dakota. We begin with boys Class A in the region tournaments, which are underway in the East. Davies at now 22-0 holds a commanding number 1 seed.
Yeah, Davies the clear favorite in the East right now, but West Fargo, Cheyenne, Grand Forks River all earned victories on Tuesday night. Again, I think seeding really is going to matter in this East region tournament, which it doesn't always. To me, you really want to secure that top spot and hopefully avoid a Minot or a Dickinson right off the bat. But of course, we know the West could be crazy too, and there's nothing for sure here. But I think you really want to secure that top spot.
Speaking of the West, Minot and Dickinson have been the top dogs out there all year. Will that continue in this tournament, or do you think Century could make a serious bid here?
You know what? A team like Century that plays defense the way they do keeps them in games against anybody. And since they beat Dickinson, they've given up less than 50 points per game in each of those 4 games. So an unbelievable stretch right now by the Patriots. Cade Amundsen, Josh Sipes, Lucas Mayer have all been playing really well recently, and they've been playing well on offense as well. That's given them that firepower that they needed to really get some big wins. However, that West is so incredibly tough, it is really hard to keep that level of play up for a couple weeks.
Right.
We'll see if they can compete. I think right now Dickinson, Minot, definitely the favorites, but Century's right there.
All right, well, same deal on the girls' side. 2 region tournaments, 4 teams from each of them earning a spot at the state tournament. We all know that. But there's a pretty interesting storyline coming into the East Region Tournament, and that is that there are 5 teams that probably absolutely deserve a spot in Bismarck. So somebody is going to be staying home.
You know what? Just a week ago, we were talking about West Fargo as being the hottest team out east. Well, they've already lost a first-round region game and face an elimination game, and that's 2 losses in a row for them. And then same with Red River. They lost on Tuesday night to the Dub Twins out of Grand Forks Central, and that puts them in danger of not making the state tournament. So they'll face the elimination, while you've got Wahpeton, Davies, Shanley, who all seem like they have a little bit of an upper hand now with that first-round win. There's still a lot of region tournament left to play. Can't wait to see how this thing shakes out, but not all 5 teams are going to the state tournament. We know that for sure.
Unfortunate for them, yeah. Class B now, districts just getting underway for the boys.
Yeah, no big upsets yet here, just getting started. We'll be getting into the meat of the region tournaments at this time next week. A lot to preview on that next week's show.
All right, so we look forward to that. Well, that brings us to the B girls, and up next, Jody Norstedt will help us break down the bracket for this week's state tournament in Grand Forks. You're watching Varsity Sports.
You know, it's an experience I don't think anybody can really say they know what it's about unless you've been there. You get a taste of it once, and we've been there, and it was 4 years ago. to get back just means so much to this program and to these kids. I mean, we've built a great tradition of basketball there, so it's well-deserved. I mean, well-deserved for them.
We played really good defense tonight, I think. That was probably the best defense we played all year, and we rebounded really well, too. So I think we're going to have to keep doing that and just keep playing as a team to do well at state and compete.
And welcome back. That was Nicole Benz, the head coach in junior Taylor Roll of Grant County, who beat the defending champion Shiloh Christian 49-34 to qualify for the state tournament. No seniors on this year's Grant County team. We're going to see how much experience counts for them at the tournament. Well, as we've already mentioned, Jason, state tournament season tips off Thursday at the Alara Center in Grand Forks with the Class B girls. And for more on that, we bring in the newest member of our team here at Midco Sports Network and our newly appointed North Dakota High School sports expert, Jody Norstedt. Jody, welcome. Let's talk some hoops, shall we? We're going to break this thing down game by game, starting appropriately with Game 1. Second-seeded Kindred takes on Edgeley Cullum Montpelier. Kindred, one of 2 unbeaten teams in this year's field. What makes the Vikings so tough?
Well, pick your poison. The Vikings, a great shooting team. They average about 33% from outside. Brooke Hyatt, senior point guard, has made 55 three-pointers. They have a good slasher in Michaela Renke, can hurt you on the drive. She's committed to UND. And then they also average 14 steals per game. That's an unbelievable number for the Vikings, but don't count out the Rebels. Region 3 is always tough, and they emerge from that group.
All right, next on the slate, we've got what could be the best matchup on paper. 1-loss Park River Fordville Lankin takes on 3-loss Grant County. What do these two teams bring to the table, Jody?
Well, Grant County comes in on a 12-game winning streak, Jason, so they're playing as good as anybody right now. But Park River Fordville Lankin, a very senior-laden squad. All 5 starters are seniors, and they're led by Region Player of the Year, Bailey Beneda. The Aggies will be tough to stop, and they are really good at stopping other teams. They only allow about 30 points per game. Their only loss was to number 1 North Star.
All right, Game 3 now features 24-0 North Star against Glen Ullin Hebron. North Star, the favorite to win this whole thing, Jody. So is there any possible way they get upset?
Well, I can guarantee one thing. The Bearcats will win this matchup. And that's even if Glen Ullin Hebron wins because, of course, both teams are the Bearcats. But North Star obviously led by 6'5" senior Macy Quillavang. The NDSU commit fills up the stat sheet, averages about 4.5 blocks per game. I just don't know if Glen Ullin Hebron has players to really match up with her, to do anything down low against her on the offensive end. So I think North Star's going to be able to win this one pretty easily.
All right, well, the last of the quarterfinals is that 4-5 matchup. We've got our Redeemers, who run into one of the hotter teams in the state. That's Watford City. Can either of these teams cause some chaos in this tournament?
Well, Watford City certainly has the experience. They made a run last year, made it to the state championship game where they eventually lost to Shiloh Christian, but they can hang their hat on a little bit of experience there for the Wolves. For our Redeemers, this is a team that has already faced adversity. In the region final, they trailed by about 8 against Velva Sawyer with about a minute and a half left. They came back, made it go into overtime. Morgan Olson was terrific, and they come out with the win. So our Redeemers battle-tested coming into the state tournament.
All right, finally, time to put you on the spot, Jody, because that's the kind of thing we do here. Who's going to win this thing?
Well, I think the easy choices, the obvious choices would be North Star and Kindred, both teams unbeaten. But Park River Fordville Lankin comes in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. As I mentioned, their only loss was to North Star, and that game was in Candu. They'll get them on a neutral court in Park River Fordville Lankin. All 5 starters are seniors. That, I think, will be key. I think the Aggies can pull it off.
All right, there you have it. He likes Park River. Does that surprise you at all?
You know what? That gives me something to think about. We've got picks coming up.
Yeah, we do.
I might have to change my thought process a little. Well, we'll see.
Nobody will ever accuse Jody of just playing the favorites.
He will not.
Right? All right, well, it should be a fun tournament. It begins again Thursday, championship game, slated for 8 p.m. Saturday in Grand Forks. We'll break it all down for you here on Varsity Sports coming up next week. All right, well, 10 championships are going to be awarded on the court over the next few weeks, but we've got one of our own to settle right here. We're going to wrap things up with our first championship edition of High School Hoops Pick'em after this.
Varsity Sports on Midco Sports Network is presented by Mitchell Technical Institute and Farmers Union Insurance Agency.
It is time to play Pick'em, but as we enter this state tournament season, the game is changing a bit. At this point, it's all about picking the champion, although you are rewarded if you go out on a limb. Explain that part of it, Jason.
That's the part we make it so you can catch up.
Yeah.
Like I need to catch up right now.
You do.
So you get their seed points if you pick somebody. So if you pick a 4 seed or a 5 seed, you get that many points if they win the whole thing.
Doesn't matter what they do.
You can play it safe and go for that 1 point for the top seeds.
You're picking a champion here. That's it. That's all we're officially picking for the Pick'em
We're going to do it
procedures.
starting this week and through the next 9 championships. So that'll be our way to settle this little game we've got going on.
I've got a 1-point lead coming in thanks to Jandy's 0-4 performance this past week.
Coming in
I
strong
was 2-2,
into March.
not a whole lot better, but I did get my upset, and that gives me the 1-point lead. We are going to break down this North Dakota B bracket right now, Jason, and what do you think here? Because I know there's a couple of teams that seem to be kind of the overwhelming favorites. That's North Star, the number 1 seed, and Kindred, the number 2 seed, the only 2 unbeaten teams we've got.
Yeah, you really do look at this field, and you obviously point to those 2 teams who haven't lost yet. Kindred hasn't been tested quite as much as North Star has, but when North Star was tested, they passed at every level. Now, let's talk about a few of these other teams that could cause some issues. Morgan Olson out of our Redeemers, I mean, she's the volleyball player of the year, the senior athlete of the year. She's a great athlete, and she's carried her team to the state tournament. Watford City has been playing outstanding defense, allowing 31.3 points per game in region tournament, so that puts them in the mix as well. Park River, such great distributed scoring across the board. They could make a little run. I like what Jody said about them with all seniors starting for them. But in the end, got to go with Steph Miller and Macy Quilvang. I think North Star is just getting it done at every level. Give me North Star.
Well, you're not going to catch me this week because I'm also going to pick North Star.
All right, next week.
Because I just think, as you said, they've been tested several times this year. They passed all. Not only have they passed them with flying colors. I think that continues here. But it is interesting. Our Redeemers, Watford City on the other part of their bracket. That could be a difficult semifinal matchup either way.
It's going to be one of the first close games they've had all season long.
All right, well, looking forward to it. Seeing if North Star can pull it out, but just in general, to start a state tournament season.
Let's do it, Jay.
It's always an exciting time of year. All right, that is our time for this week. For Jason Andera, I'm Jay Elson. Enjoy the games, everyone. We'll see you back here next week.